Okay, today we're going to start with the first of two-part study of the Mahapadana Sutta. This is from D14, the discourse on the harvest of great acts, translated as SD 49.8. Now this is a very long sutta. It's a very important sutta. In fact, it covers the rest of the volume. It covers more than half volume 49. So we have 8a, 8b. 8a is the sutta itself. 8b is the modern commentary. Now, in these two parts, I'll just give you a kind of introduction, give an idea, an overview of the nature and significance of the sutta, and perhaps in due course you will find the time and the interest to study the sutta more in depth. Now, this sutta is important and interesting in a number of ways. For example, it is in this sutta where we have quite a sort of almost complete story of the Buddha, from the kind of more or less the whole life, so to speak. But it's not the life of Gautama Buddha. It's the life of a past Buddha called Vipassi, a Buddha who lived 91 years ago, a long time ago. So this sutta also gives us an idea of how the early Buddhists were aware of the relativity of time, the length of time, astronomical time, and the idea of past Buddhas. In this sutta, we have mention of various past Buddhas, where we have the Buddha of the present generation, in other words, our current world cycle, and the one before this. Okay? So it is from this sutta also we have a good idea of the life story of the Buddha. In other words, the life story of all the Buddhas, past Buddhas, present Buddha, future Buddha, they kind of follow roughly the same pattern, varying, of course, in the difference in details, the name of parents and so on. They come from a kind of a high class in society, and this person who's going to be Buddha, of course, will be a very intelligent person, very adept in various human knowledge and skills. Now, this sutta has got three main parts. On page 71, I've kind of listed the introduction, the contents of the sutta. You can see I've divided the sutta into three parts, or rather the sutta divides itself into three parts. It's the first teaching, second teaching, and third teaching, like teaching cycles, if you like. They are not equal parts at all. The first teaching is the introduction, which talks about the 7 Buddhas. This is the oldest number of Buddhas that we have, where we talk about past Buddhas. There are 7 in numbers. And this number grew to 28 at the most in the early suttas. Now, part 2 is the longest section. Part 2 talks about the life of Vipassi Buddha, and it is from this section that we have, for the first time, an idea of more or less a complete life of the Buddha, of the past Buddha Vipassi. And then the third teaching, we come back to Gautama Buddha, where he talks about how he visits the what are called the pure abodes, where the non-returners live, and various non-returners will come and visit him to pay their respects. So for today, I'll only give you an overview of part 1 and part 3, the first teaching and the third teaching. And next week or next talk, I will deal with the life of Vipassana Buddha. So in the first section, the sections 1.1 to 1.15, and this talks about the 7 Buddhas. Now, how did this sutta begin? According to the introduction, section 1, thus have I heard at one time the Blessed One was staying in a little kuti, a cell hut, under a kareri tree in Anathapindika's Park Monastery in Jeta's Grove outside Savatthi. So, and then the monks were talking about how the Buddha knew about past lives. So they were wondering whether the Buddha knew about this through his own knowledge, through his own awakening, or the Devas informed him. The Devas tell him about the various past lives. So they were not very sure. So these are unawakened monks they were discussing, and the Buddha comes along and asks them what were they discussing, and then from there the Buddha, in a way, cleared the doubts and answered their questions, kind of the questions they have been discussing, if you like. And that brings us to section 1.4. So here in section 1, the Buddha says the Buddha begins by teaching them and say, well, in the past there were other Buddhas, and he begins with 91 eons ago. And eon is a world cycle. In other words, the time it takes our universe to go one cycle. Basically, the universe expands, stabilizes, and that's our present time, where life exists, where it's a very, very long time. And then there comes a time when the universe will collapse, and then again reach a stable state where nothing exists, as it were. So that's one world cycle. So Vipassana Buddha lived 91 such world cycles ago, a very long time ago. And then after the Buddha, Vipassana, there is the Buddha Sikhi. Now Sikhi lived 31 eons ago, 31 world cycles ago. And after Sikhi comes Wesabu. Wesabu lived 3 eons ago. So these Buddhas, they live in different times. Then comes a very interesting period, that is our own world cycle. So in other words, if you look at this, we're talking about 31 eons ago. So what about in between those world cycles? There were no Buddhas. So if there are no Buddhas, you can imagine what kind of world it is. It's going to be lots of problems. So anyway, in our present cycle, there are 4 Buddhas who have come. And notice there's no mention of future Buddha here. It just kind of stopped with Gautama Buddha. So our present cycle is called Bhadra Kalpa, or in Sanskrit, Bhadra Kalpa, the fortunate eon. Because in this cycle, we have 4 Buddhas have come, and then 1 more is to come. So in our cycle, we have the first Buddha in our cycle is called Kakusanda, and after Kakusanda came Kona Gamana, and after Kona Gamana comes Kassapa. Kassapa is the Buddha just before ours, and then comes Gautama. So this is where our present sutta stops. It just stops there, doesn't mention about future Buddha. The future Buddha is only mentioned once in the Chakravartisyanada Sutta, the coming future Buddha by the name of Maitreya. Now then in the next section, 1.6, the Buddha tells us of the class, social clan that these Buddhas come from. Now, these are the class or caste, if you like, social class. So the first three Buddhas, that is Vipassi, Sikhi, and Vesabu, they all come from the Kshatriya class, or Kshatriya Varna, if you like. They were warriors. So Vipassi, Sikhi, Vesabu, Kakusanda, Kona, Gamana, Kassapa comes from the Brahmin class, the priest class, and then Gotama is from the Kshatriya class again. So these are, in other words, they come from the highest class at that time. This is understandable because we are talking about someone who's going to be well respected as a teacher, and so obviously he will be kind of respected as a person in society. Now then in the next section, the Buddha talks about the clan. In other words, the name by which they go. Right? For example, we have family surnames, Tan, Lames, and so on. So these are kind of like their clan name. Okay, so our clan name can be very big, and sometimes you might not even know whether we're related or how we're related. So Vipassi Buddha comes from the Kondanya clan, or in Sanskrit it's called Kaundinya. Sikhi Vesabu also comes from the same Kondanya clan. So notice here, Kondanya is not really the name of a person. Kondanya is a clan. It's just like Tan, Lim, and so on. Now then, during the auspicious year, Kakusanda, Vesabu, and Kassapa, they all come from the same clan, the Kassapa clan, Kashapa, okay, or Kachapa. Sometimes it is translated as Kachapa. If I'm not mistaken, the word Kachapa actually means tortoise. Okay? So this is just kind of like maybe the emblem is a tortoise or a turtle. And our own Buddha comes from the Gotama clan. So this is a kind of background, family background to them. Then comes the lifespan of the Buddhas. This is section 1.7. Now here we see a very interesting kind of a descending order of things. A long time ago, the lifespan was longer, and then the lifespan is getting shorter, relatively shorter. So Vipassi Buddha, for example, lived for 80,000 years, and that's a very long time. Now we have to understand this kind of time as being relative. People age more slowly, in other words. In the time of Sikhi, or in the case of Sikhi, he lived for 70,000 years, the kind of years that we know. Vesabu, 60,000 years. And then in the auspicious year, we have Kakusanda, 40,000 years. Konagamana, 30,000 years. Kassapa, 20,000 years. And then our own Buddha, his lifespan, the time of his, during his lifetime, the lifespan of human beings about 100 years. That'll be about our time, if you like. Now this is an average, okay? So even though say 100 years, there are people who are known to live, say Ananda is known to live to 160 years. So these are kind of approximate, or 180 years. Then in the next section, we have the Bodhi trees of the Buddha. So each Buddha sits under a different tree. Not all different all the time, but most of them different. So in the case of Vipassi Buddha, his sacred tree is what's called a Patali or trumpet flower tree. There is a city in India, in ancient India, called Pataliputra. Now it's called Patna. Then Sikhi, his sacred tree is the white mango tree, the Pundarika. Then Vesabu, his sacred tree, his Bodhi tree is the Sal tree, which is a well-known tree with flowers growing right out of its trunk. Then Kakusanda, his sacred tree is the acacia tree, Sirisa. And then Konagamana, his Bodhi tree is the glomerous fig tree, the Udumbara tree. Then Kassapa Buddha, the Buddha before ours, his sacred tree is the banyan tree, and the banyan tree is a very big tree. And then our own Gautama Buddha, his Bodhi tree, of course, is the holy fig tree, Ficus religiosa. In Pali it's called Asatta or Ashwata in Sanskrit. So here, in other words, we begin to see sort of the putting together of a Buddhology, different Buddhas having different qualities and characteristics. In the next section, 1.9, the chief disciples of the various Buddhas are mentioned. Vipassi, the chief disciples called Khanda and Tissa. Sikhi, the chief disciples are called Abhibhu and Sambhava. And the Buddha Vesabu, his chief disciples are called Sona and Uttara. Now these two names are very well known in Myanmar, Sona and Uttara. So much so that sometimes the Burmese would call themselves Sonuttara and combine the name. Then comes the auspicious Ian Kakusanda. His two chief disciples are Vidura and Sanjeeva. Then you have Konagamana, his chief disciples are Biyosa and Uttara. And then Kassapa, his chief disciples are called Tissa and Bharadwaja. And of course our own Buddha style will be Sariputta and Moggallana. Now the next part is a bit tricky, because it refers to groups of different assemblies of the Buddha. In the case of Vipassana Buddha, it is said he has three assemblies, three groups of disciples. The first group is quite huge, 6,800,000 monks. This is because in those days the population was very big. And then in the second assembly, 100,000 monks. The third assembly, 80,000 monks. This is 91 eons ago. Now in the case of Sikhi, he too has three assemblies of 100,000 monks, 80,000 monks, 70,000 monks. And Vesabu, the third Buddha, has three assemblies also of 80,000 monks, 70,000 monks, and 60,000 monks. Kakusanda has got only one assembly of 40,000 monks. In Konagamana, 30,000 monks, one assembly. Kassapa, one assembly of 20,000 monks. And then comes our own Buddha. Now this is very interesting. Our own Buddha, the Mahapadana Sutta says that his assembly is 1,250 monks. We know very well this is not the actual number of the total population of all the Buddha's disciples. These are the monks who met together during the occasion called the Magga Puja. They are all Ehi Bhikkhus, in other words, they were ordained directly by the Buddha. They were all full-fledged saints. They have come together without any prior appointment, and then it was the full moon day of Magga Puja. So this 1,250 were probably when they all gathered together in one place. Probably that's the understanding that I have what is meant here. Because beyond this, the monks will be wandering in different places. They rarely met unless it is the rains retreat. So here we are given the idea that at one point this is the number of monks that gathered together. There were definitely more than 1,250 arahats and the other saints who are followers of Gautama Buddha. Now in the next section, 1.11, we have the monk attendant, the personal attendant of the Buddha. In the case of Vipassi, he is called Ashoka. In the case of Sikhi, he is called Kemankara. Vesabu, he was attended by a monk attendant called Upasanta. Kakusanda's personal attendant is called Buddhija. Konagamana was attended by Sotija. Kassapa, his personal attendant is or was Sampamitta. And in the case of Sakyamuni Buddha, Gautama Buddha, it is of course the elder Ananda. Then comes the Buddha's parents and their city. So notice here we're getting a kind of the Buddha stories beginning to be formed. So from this we can put together an idea of the life story of our own Buddha. Now Vipassi, his main city, rather his father was a king by the name of Banduma, and the mother, the queen, was called Bandumati. Mati here meaning wisdom, knowledge. And this royal city is also called Bandumati. In the case of Sikhi, the father, also a king, was called Aruna. Aruna means dawn. And the wife, the queen, the Buddha Sikhi's mother is called Pabhavati. And the city is called Arunavati. Then comes the auspicious, with one more, with the Vesabu Buddha. The father is a king called Supatita, and the queen Vasavati. And the royal city is called Anoma. Then comes the auspicious year. Kakusanda is, now here we have something different. His father was a Brahmin by the name of Agidatta, and the mother is Vishaka. And the royal city, here the king's name is Kema. The royal city is called Kemawati. Nakona Gamana, the father, also was a Brahmin by the name of Yanya Datta. Now these are all Brahmin names. Yanya Datta in Sanskrit is Yajna Datta. The mother is called Uttara, and the royal palace of the king Soba is Sobhavati. Now Kassapa, the Buddha just before ours, his father was also a Brahmin by the name of Brahmadatta, which is a very famous name. And his mother is called Dhanavati. And the king also is a famous king called. And Kiki, of course, we always associate him with Varanasi. And finally, of course, our own Buddha Gautama, his father, is called Sudodana, his mother Maya or Mahamaya, and the royal city is called Kapilavatthu. And of course, in the case of our Buddha, the father was also the king. So here, in a sense, we have the first canonical mention, sutta mention of the parents of the Buddha, and then we have kind of a beginning of the life story of the Buddha here. So, of course, the monks were very happy to share this, and they were wondering how the Buddha knew all this, and the Buddha replies by saying, it's a Dhamma Dhatu, the Dhamma element. So here, in other words, the Buddha's awakening, the Buddha's knowledge is called the Dhamma Dhatu. So this is where we find different terms are used at different times. When the Buddha explains certain wonderful things, like how he knows certain things. So here his knowledge is called the Dhamma Dhatu. And here the Buddha also says, well, I know this for myself, and sometimes the gods also come and tell the Buddha certain things, in other words. So there are two ways when the Buddha gets his information. One's to his own understanding, the other is to the gods. Of course, it doesn't mean that the Buddha is not able to know those things. It's just that if he wants to know anything, he can. He gets into meditation, and then he would kind of recollect whatever he needs to remember. but occasionally the gods themselves will come and tell him. So that ends the first part, and then the second part, there's the interlude, where the Buddha talks about how he knew all these things. In other words, he's emphasizing the point to the monks that it is through meditation, through awakening, that this knowledge comes. Then the second part, of course, is the story of Vipassi, which I will summarize in the next talk. Now, the closing part is the part where the Buddha visits the what I call the pure abodes, the various non-returners. So here, what's interesting is the Buddha, this is on section, the third teaching, section brackets 9, okay? My revised translation is page 917, I'm not sure the whole book, what page is it? Now this is called the Suddhavasa chapter, section 334. This Suddhavasa chapter covers section 3.34 to 3.45. So 3.34. Now Suddhavasa, Suddha means pure, Avasa means abode. So this is a special dimension, if you like. It doesn't really exist in itself. It's more a kind of an existence for the non-returners. In other words, the non-returners are the only ones who inhabit this world. It's like they create their own world, so to speak, because of their nature. So there are various grades here. Okay? So the Buddha visits the lowest of them, the Aviha, so that those in the higher realms can come down and visit him, in other words. So the Buddha stays down on the Aviha level, and then the gods from the higher levels like Atapa, Sudasa, Sudasi, and Akanita, those are the higher realms, they all can come down to meet the Buddha. And what's interesting here also, we see here because the lifespan of these non-returners are very long. Some of them, their lifespan go back to Vipassi Buddha's time. So this is where we have a very interesting situation where it's not just a story. In the first part, the Buddha tells a story about, okay, these are the past Buddhas, this is their parents, the city, and so on and so forth. But here, this is another time, so to speak, where the Buddha decides himself to leave earth and go to this Suddhavasa, the pure abodes, to meet the non-returners. I think this is the only time that the Buddha does that. In fact, the Buddha, as a bodhisattva especially, this is one world he has never been to, never reborn, because you have to be a non-returner to come to Suddhavasa. So in a sense you might say this is the first time and the last time that the Buddha actually comes to Suddhavasa. Of course I could be wrong in the sense that the Buddha may have visited Suddhavasa again later, but definitely this is the first time. So we have some interesting point here is that the Buddha visits Aviha, and then the other Brahmas, in this realm they're called Brahmas, the non-returners, the higher realms that come down to meet him, and they announce themselves. They come in huge numbers, hundreds of thousands. You have to use your imagination. We're talking about a world of a different dimension here. This is not the Earth. It's like some foreign galaxy, if you like. So if you watch these science fiction movies of outer space, you begin to understand this kind of realm. They do not have a body like ours. Okay? They exist in a, you might say, pure form, if you like. So there are those who come right from the time of Vipassi Buddha, and then they come and meet our present Buddha and announce themselves, and all the different non-returners of all the other levels, from all the other Buddhas we have mentioned, from the time of those past Buddhas. They come to see the Buddha, they announce where they are from, and there was this big gathering, and everyone is very joyful to see the Buddha. The Buddha, of course, probably might have taught some Dharma, and but that's all that we are told. Then again, the story cycle ends. The Buddha seems to repeat what he told the monks to this to these non-returners too. And then finally, in section 3.46, you have the conclusion, where once again the Buddha, as it were, returns to earth and relates this event to the monks, and he tells the monks, again, he is able to do all these things, he knows all these things through the Dhamma element, through his awakening, and of course the Devas to reveal certain things to him. Of course, in this case, the Devas would include the Brahmas, would include the non-returners also, who are in Sudavasa. So this is the first part, first talk, which where I've covered the first teaching and the third teaching. It gives you an idea of the immensity of this, of the stage, of the drama that we are looking at here, kind of cosmic drama of the Buddha. So in the next talk, I'll give you some kind of overview of the life of Vipassana Buddha. Let us now close with a short reflection. We are still living in the time of Gautama Buddha because we still remember his teachings. That means we have only one Buddha. We need only one Buddha, Gautama Buddha. He is the historical Buddha. It is our duty, out of respect for the Buddha as our teacher, to study the suttas, to understand the suttas, so that we can awaken just like the Buddha himself. Reflecting in these ways, wonderful good karma. By the power of such karma, may we be empowered with wisdom and courage to aspire to attain at least dream winning in this life. By the same token, by the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to all our loved ones, our family, relatives, those who support us. May they be well, may they be happy. And also to those who are seeking the Dhamma, practicing Dhamma, that they may find awakening and wisdom in this life itself. And to those who are still seeking, who have difficulties, may they overcome all those difficulties and find their liberation in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.